today I will be drawing an underground home. For this project, I'm going to use a Sharpie, but you can go ahead and use a pencil instead. I'm just working on regular drawing paper, and I'm going to start off by making the line for my ground. So because this is an underground home, I'm putting my ground line pretty high up on my paper, and you can see it's anything but straight because I do want it to look like the ground, which usually isn't super flat. Next, I'm going to think about things that would be above ground. So, for example, I'm going to go ahead and maybe make a nice tree trunk right here and add some branches kind of coming up off of the top part of my paper. And then we'll add kind of some greenery that is going up off of the top of my paper as well, because a tree would be something that would be above ground. Some other things that you could add above ground, of course, are some flowers. You could add things like a house or a fence or animals or anything that you would think would be walking around above the ground. You could add mountains or hills. I'm going to put some blades of grass all the way along the top part of my ground. I'm going to think of maybe some other things like mushrooms that you could add above ground. I mean, really, this is up to you, whatever things that you want to put. You could even add maybe water, like a stream or a lake. Really, it does not matter as long as it's above ground. You could even think of adding things in the sky, maybe some birds that are flying by, or some clouds up in the sky too would work. So I'm just going to go ahead and focus right now on filling up the top part of my picture here. It's just a slice of the paper because the majority of my paper is actually down below where my house will be. I am leaving a little bit of open space by my grass so that I can have an entrance to my home, so I didn't put anything above that line. Now I want to start off by drawing in the shapes of my house, and I'm actually going to put my Sharpie away for now because this is important to do in pencil because we will not be using the entire shape. I will actually be making tunnels and things, so I'm just going to draw with pencil the shapes that I am going to have for my underground house. And I want to really concentrate on filling up the space down here. So I don't want teeny tiny little bubbles. I really want to make areas that are so large that they really fill up the bottom of my paper. So you can see I'm making kind of curved shapes that have a little bit of space between them, and they're basically filling up the whole bottom section of my papers. They're kind of like bubbles. It does not matter how many you do as long as they're just nice and large so that they really take up the space of the paper. Okay, so I am doing 6 right now. You can see they're different sizes and different shapes. And then what I want to do is I want to think about how these are going to connect. So they need to have some type of tunnel or connection. So I'm going to go back to my Sharpie now, and I'm starting off with the entrance. So how do you get from the ground to the first room? And I'm going to actually have 2 entrances, one from the ground and one from this tree trunk here. So I'm making those 2 tunnels there. Then I have to think, okay, how are each of my rooms going to connect to each other? So I'm going to connect those with tunnels as well. And you can think about how high or how low you want the tunnels to go. Not every room has to connect to each other. You know, it could just be one passage that connects each of the rooms, or, you know, like the center room here of mine has lots of different connections. So it really just depends on what you want to do and how you want to connect your room. So I'm thinking about the connections right now and drawing those in and making sure that each room connects at least to one other room. It can connect to more if that works. And then now I'm going to go ahead and finish drawing the outline of my rooms, making sure to stop drawing when I get to those tunnels so I don't cover them up. So that's why I wanted to do my rooms in pencil so that I could erase these lines where the tunnels go. and just have the strong lines go where the outside is and then connect to the tunnels. So you can see now all of my rooms are connected. They are looking nice and round and complete. They're really filling up the space of my paper, so I don't have a lot of just open dirt space. And they are all looking very nice and full and big. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. If you want to trace yours with marker so your lines are nice and strong, you could do that as well. It really does help the lines stand out. And now that I have all of my rooms kind of divided up, I have to decide what is going to be in each room. So what am I going to make? The first thing I want to do is I want to figure out how they get into the room. So I'm going to think about steps, maybe a ladder, maybe a rope, maybe, I don't know, a trampoline that they jump on, and whatever you can think of to get in and out of the room. So I'm adding some steps. You know, it depends on the tunnel. If it's sideways, you don't really need to add anything because you can just walk on it. But if the connection is really up and down, you may want to think of some ways that your people can get in and out of the spaces. So this one's up at the top, so instead of just jumping down into the room, I'm going to add a little ladder here so you can get up out of the room and down into the room. Here again, I think I'm just going to add like a little stair step that will go down into this room, and then all of my other rooms have horizontal entrances, so that should be okay. All right, now I'm at the point where I basically just need to start filling in the rest of my picture. So I think I'm gonna add another tree up here quick because this area looked kind of empty. And I'm thinking about, okay, what do I wanna put in each of the rooms of my house here? And so I'm just going to start off by thinking like what each room is used for. So this big room right in the middle, I thought would be a good room for maybe eating. So I'm going to add a kind of like a kitchen looking area. I'm going to have maybe some cabinets that would be used to store some food or some dishes. So I'm going to add some drawers maybe and some little drawer knobs. Cabinets with little handles. I'm going to add maybe a little sink right here so that you can wash some dishes or wash your hands. Maybe a little knob on both sides. I'm going to add maybe some upper cabinets as well to hold extra dishes or food. So this is going to be kind of the central area for food. So I can have that all set up. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a place to eat the food. So I'll add just a little table in here right in the middle, and just keep it simple with the little center part of the table here. Maybe add a couple chairs on either side of the table, and we'll add those kind of in there too. Give the chairs some legs, and this is kind of a nice, central location. When people are hungry, they can meet up there. Now I've gone ahead and sped up the video just so that you can kind of see what I do. I'm thinking about other rooms and what I want to put in them, and so I'll just kind of go through that quickly. This one I decided to be a living room, so I wanted to have a couch and a TV and a little TV stand. I'm going to have a rug on the floor so it's nice and comfortable, and maybe a little side table with a plant on it. Maybe an extra chair or something here in the corner that someone else can sit on if they want to. And now that room is nice and full. Over here, I think I want a library, so I think I'm going to add some books on a bookcase. And we'll throw some of those there over on the corner here. And then maybe I'll have like a nice little fireplace, keeping you nice and warm. There's nothing like sitting next to the fireplace and reading a book. So I'll put like a little chair or something over here, a little rug on the floor. I'll put a little fire in the fireplace and maybe a little smoke thing that goes up out so that it can not get all smoky in there. So that kind of lets the smoke out into the air, and maybe some little cushions that go around on the floor. Nothing too fancy, but hopefully comfortable little library reading nook. All right, let's see. I still need an art room because I do just happen to love art. So I'm going to add a little canvas on an easel and some art supplies, a little table, maybe a cabinet that holds all of my extra art supplies. So some containers and things like that for my paints and paint brushes, and a little stool or something that I can use to sit on near my canvases and paints and paintbrushes, a carpet, whatever you want to add to make it come to life, to make that space yours. I have nowhere to sleep at this point, so I want to go ahead and add some beds. And you have to think about how many people you want living in your space. I decided to add bunk bed here, so 2 people or even 4, I guess, depending on how wide the beds are, could sleep in this room. And I'm going to put some maybe little pictures up on the wall right next to the beds, and a nice little rug in the middle of the floor down below to make it nice and homey. And then I have, you know, the little dresser, the light. I'll add another little bed over here as the second room. Maybe this is for like a little kid's room. So it's just kind of tucked off to the side, and you know, so basically just kind of come up with some good plans there. Once you're done filling in all the rooms, the next step is to kind of fill up the ground. So this is all of the area around your house, and the ground, you know, think of layers of earth. So I'm kind of dividing it up into sections of earth, and each one is going to have a different pattern or texture inside. You'll notice that I actually switched to a thinner Sharpie for this part, just to make my lines a little bit less strong than the rest of my house. So if you are doing this section and maybe you wanted to switch to a different Sharpie, or you could even use like a brown Sharpie or something that had color to it just to make it different from the rest of your area, that works too. But I'm just trying to think of different line designs and shape designs that I can use to fill up this space. You can see I've used diagonal lines, I use polka dots, I use zigzag lines, squiggly lines, rectangles that are floating. Here's kind of loop-de-loop lines. So you can have fun getting some line excitement going on in the ground area here around your house. I'm going to continue filling up all of these areas with different patterns, and then I will be ready to start adding some color. Now I am using crayon for this project, and I'm starting with the ground. I figured it would be easiest to kind of have that all filled in first, and then it really kind of makes the house pop out. If you want to get extra fancy with your coloring, you could even go a little bit darker near your lines of your house and then leave it a little bit lighter outside, and that kind of gives a little bit of shading too. So feel free to kind of push a little bit harder with your crayon or whatever you're using to color, and that way it'll give it a little bit of shading. All right, you can see I've done the sky. I'm adding some interest to the trees and some color up there, and then I'm going to go ahead and start coloring in flowers and other elements throughout. So it really, I mean, it can be colored however you would like, just giving it some fun interest, and of course kind of filling in the rest of the picture with color. For the actual house, I mean, you could make it look like it's in the ground, so use kind of colors like that. But since I've got so much brown already, I wanted to kind of use some fun colors. You can see this is my finished piece with all of the colors in the different rooms of my house. I hope you enjoyed this project. Have fun creating your very own underground hideout. And please visit Elke Art for more fun art tutorials. Thanks.